What is up, Hardcore Nation? It's Hardcore Christopher here, and today I'm going to be reacting to WatchMojo.com's Top 20 Worst PlayStation Games of All Time. Now, given that the PlayStation is one of the greatest consoles ever, I'm not just saying that. I really haven't been a huge fan of Sony, I'll be honest. I find it hard to believe that WatchMojo could find 20 bad games. But hey, it says it in the title. And let's get right into this.
But not here. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 20 worst PlayStation games of all time. For this list, we'll be looking at the absolute worst games to ever grace Sony's beloved console across all its generations, both exclusives and non-exclusives alike. The power of PlayStation definitely isn't with these titles.
I thought I was slow.
Number 20, Lair.
I put the fear of God into those loci! That's it, Burners. Push their army back.
Star Wars fans and gamers in general have a lot of fond memories involving Factor 5's Rogue Squadron series. Players were placed in the cockpit of various...
This looks pretty cool. I mean, you're controlling a dragon. Where does it all go wrong?
iconic ships from the Star Wars series, and the results was just a lot of action-packed, high-flying fun. Unfortunately, all the goodwill towards Factor 5 from their previous work seemingly evaporated when they released this extremely disappointing game in 2007 for the PS3, meant to show the strength of the console's 6-axis motion controls.
Okay, I didn't realize they were going to be covering the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 4, I'm assuming. Oh, my mistake. I read the title as Top 20 Worst PlayStation Games of All Time. So when I saw PlayStation, I pretty much thought that that was the only console that they were going to be covering. No! PlayStation is very broad because of, well, all the others. So, my mistake.
Players take to the skies atop a dragon and a third-person flight setup that you'd think would play to the studio's strengths. But broken motion controls make for a frustrating experience. Reviewers were even given Reviewer's Guide as a form of damage control, which just added fuel to the fire that was the game's release. Number 19, Rugby World Cup 2015.
Well, to be honest, it's rugby. Of course it's going to be bad.
Sports games are big business, with most major franchises getting yearly iterations that not only update the graphics and gameplay, but player rosters and settings. With the pressure to push out new entries, it shouldn't be surprising that developers occasionally let a half-finished product out the door. This entry, in particular, is thought to have been rushed to the market to coincide with the 2015 Rugby World Cup. One of the wingers. He takes him down. Suffice it to say, the game's lack of polishing becomes evident almost immediately. On top of the numerous bugs, the game features outdated gameplay and graphics, no online features to speak of, and a serious lack of licensed players and stadiums, making it feel more like a cheap ripoff than a legit...
No online play in 2015? Get that out of here!
...legitimate licensed product.
This whole time, it was a close, tense event.
Thanks to the phenomenal success of Nintendo Wii in 2006, other video game companies were quick to jump on the motion control bandwagon. PlayStation.
No matter where you live has never mattered more. For over 100 years, realtors have been providing expert
Who thought this was a good idea?
to dream and thrive. When you're ready, look for the R.
Nah, I never seen this guy, no way.
You ever see Miss Fielding with other
So,
I never saw Miss Field.
uh,
Yeah, she goes out every other week.
I've seen people drive cars in games.
Yeah, she went out. She came back 10 seconds.
I've never seen anything like this.
She asked me if somebody had left her a message.
She got stood up.
And I've never heard of this either. I guess there's a good reason why.
PlayStation's attempt was a PlayStation Move, a motion control system released in 2009. Designed specifically to work with the Move controller, this 2010 game tasks players with navigating the streets of Hong Kong in an office chair, avoiding obstacles, and fighting enemies. As was often the problem with early motion control games, it's nearly impossible to control the characters effectively. The gameplay experience is best described as a whole lot of frustrated controller waggling and inevitable rage quitting. We imagine more than a few Move controllers got thrown across the room along the way.
And broke in the process, and then your parents yelled at you.
Number 17, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes, this is iconic. This is iconic for all the wrong reasons.
And it was snowing.
How about this? It's no use!
Sega's lovable Blue Hedgehog has survived a number of PR disasters over the years, from terrible games to that terrifying initial design for the live-action Sonic movie. But this 2006 entry into the franchise is widely regarded.
Same here, but the night Frank was killed,
Oh,
she made a dozen calls to a pager registered under her name.
okay. I was gonna say, wait, Sonic had a live-action movie, and then I'm like, yeah, it just came out a couple of years ago. Okay.
As his lowest point. A half-finished, buggy, frustrating mess of a game, it's plagued with interminable load times and questionable story choices. The game is still a sore spot for the Sonic fandom and gamers in general. Even if you can get Sonic to sprint successfully through the game's unintuitive and bug-addled levels, the relationship between the definitely humanoid Princess Elise and the anthropomorphized animal hero will make you wish you hadn't.
Yes. Elise kisses a dead Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now they told me 1 o'clock.
Hey, I never completed this. I never did.
Watch.
I watched, oh,
She's been crazy around here.
Now you're here. Camera full attention.
I watched a Johnny Versus episode.
Hating my neighbors. I live in a very conservative building.
And Sonic actually dies.
It's just one of these things where it's doing or
Which just,
I told you, I have not seen nor heard from Frank Kaspari in years.
I don't know. Why? And somehow that kiss brings Sonic back to life and is
Your married friend. She
and is all and Sonic is also capable of going super. But this was really an abomination.
friend is married.
Sega, you ruined your mascot. What were you thinking?
Number 16, Beverly Hills Cop.
So this is an FPS released in 2006. 2006. I think that's PlayStation 2 era.
It's hard to not get excited about revisiting a beloved movie franchise, be it on the big screen or in the form of a game. But this 2006 video game adaptation on the PS2 quickly had fans convinced that Beverly Hills Cop was better left in the past. Based on the classic film series starring Eddie Murphy, the game turns Axel Foley's adventures into a dull and lifeless first-person shooter. Players awkwardly glide around environments, gunning down enemy after enemy in a joyless shooting gallery with none of the charm and comedy of the film series. Maybe this experience would be worth it if they'd actually gotten Eddie Murphy back for some snappy dialogue, but he's nowhere to be seen. Number 15, Godzilla.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No, during our exhibit of antique cigarette holders, he's a collector.
Let me get this straight.
I told you.
Just
Quite a shock when Frankie showed up.
let me get this straight.
There's no cover to blow. Cookie doesn't exist.
I can understand in the early 2000s not having
Fact that this man, you morons, call my
voice acting,
successful, intelligent, Columbia PhD,
but
London School of Economics graduate, who just last week had lunch with
Dead Rising
this sophisticated, cultivated man
and Dead Rising 2 came out.
and wants to make a life with me, Charlotte Fielding, not Cookie Kaspari.
There should have been voice acting in Beverly Hills Cop. Now what's the King of Monsters doing on this list?
We here at Watch Mojo love us some Godzilla, but not even our enduring affection for cinema's favorite kaiju can blind us to this game's glaring shortcomings. A 3D fighting game in the spirit of older Godzilla games like Godzilla Save the Earth and Destroy All Monsters Melee, this entry feels more like a shadow of games past than a fresh start. The graphics are dated and the gameplay is a monotonous procession of slow-paced battles that feel more like shoving matches than the epic brawls they should have been. It's also critically lacking when it comes to length and features, and you can experience everything the game has to offer in just a few short hours.
Godzilla has gone down.
Number 14, Rogue Warrior.
Wait a minute.
This person would have had lunch with Mr. Summers last week.
Was Godzilla always that short?
You could have been
I could have swore in the movies he was taller.
thanks anyway.
And this pick I agree with. Not even Mickey Rourke could save this game.
You'd think that a game where Mickey Rourke voices the main character and spends most of it spouting out over-the-top profanity would be a good time. But despite its bafflingly blue main character, this is one of the most miserable experiences the PS3 has to offer. Here comes the pain. Based on the exploits of real-life Navy SEAL Richard Marcinko, the game has players infiltrate North Korea, leaving bodies and muttered curses in their wake. A short and barely functional tactical shooter, the only thing that makes the game even remotely amusing is Rourke's vocal performance as Marcinko, most of which we can't even replay for you due to the excessive profanity. Good lord, man. Cool down.
Present for Admiral Payton. Tell him it's evidence for the defense in my court-martial.
You got it. Number 13, Umbrella Corps.
I've never heard of this, and it came out in 2016.
The Resident Evil franchise has seen dark days, and we're not just talking about the zombie outbreaks. This spin-off is a far cry from the tense survival horror of the main franchise, with a heavier emphasis on squad-based action a la Call of Duty or Rainbow Six. We're not opposed to franchises breaking away from the established formula, but if you're going to experiment, at least do it well. This entry doesn't offer anything new for anybody who's played a squad-based shooter before, and really only succeeded in alienating fans of the core franchise. Capcom, did you learn nothing?
Wait a minute. The only Resident Evil game up until this point that I can remember ever being squad-based was Resident Evil Raccoon City, which I own and I haven't touched ever since I played it for a couple of days when I got it. So Resident Evil should never be squad-based.
Nothing from Operation Raccoon City.
And ironically, it is, I think it's like the worst Resident Evil game out there. Well, besides the critically criticized Resident Evil 6. But hey, I could be wrong.
Number 12, The Simpsons Skateboarding.
Nice board slide. Nose grind. Crooked slide.
This is one of those ideas that seems great on paper. Springfield's favorite
Well, yes, how do you mess up a skateboarding game that involves The Simpsons?
skateboarding bad boy in a Tony Hawk-style skating game. Sounds like a winning formula, right? Well, as appealing as the concept was, the game that hit the store shelves was a pretty severe wipeout.
I think you just did something, but I forgot. Nice blunt grind.
While players get to take part skateboarding through Springfield, it's with a bare-bones arsenal of skate tricks and frustrating, unresponsive controls. The graphics are also downright hideous, with awkward models that fail to convincingly translate the characters into 3D. The Treehouse of Horror episode where Homer stumbles into the third dimension had better graphics. And that came out 7 years earlier than this game.
Crooked slide.
That was totally awesome.
Number 11, Fantastic Four.
I think I've heard... No, I haven't heard of this. It came out in '97, which is, ironically, the year that me and my sister were born. How do you mess up a Fantastic Four game?
Video game graphics still had a long way to go back in 1997, but the hardware in the first PlayStation console was definitely capable of better than what we got here. This side-scrolling beat-em-up puts players in the shoes of Marvel's first family to punch, kick, stretch, and burn their way through evildoers. But you can only do that if you can first manage to figure out what the heck is happening on screen. The muddy lo-fi visuals can make brawls with large groups a confusing mess, made all the more bewildering by the soundtrack, which, well, just listen.
Good Lord Almighty, that soundtrack is something that shouldn't be in this game.
Doesn't exactly feel like a fit for one of Marvel's most respected superhero teams, huh? Number 10, Mortal Kombat, Special Forces.
This is not Mortal Kombat. Seriously, you cannot convince me that that's Mortal Kombat. What's with, not really with a top-down perspective, But what's with the angle?
Another game that fell completely on its face while doing it. This genre attempted to transplant Mortal Kombat character Jackson Jax Briggs into a Metal Gear Solid style stealth 'em up and wound up as the worst things to ever have the Mortal Kombat.
What? I apologize for saying this about Jax, but Jax is no solid snake.
That name attached.
Too bad you will die.
Okay, one of the worst things. Originally meant
And that Mortal Kombat movie sucked. I actually did watch it when we had Netflix, and it just sucked. Okay?
to include both Jax and Sonya Blade. The game's extremely troubled development led it to being released in an unfinished state. With glitchy gameplay and massive holes in the story, not exactly what you'd call a flawless victory. This was actually nearly a finish him moment for the MK franchise. Number 9, Charlie's Angels.
Yes.
Do we even need it?
Just go watch the angry video game nerd on this.
Say anything. Just look at this mess. Based on the movie franchise of the same name, itself based on the classic 70s TV show, this PS2 title has become infamous not just as a terrible movie tie-in game, but a terrible game period. This should already be obvious from the footage you're seeing, but this game is downright hideous. With the stretched inhuman character models lopping around like something out of a nightmare, gameplay is equally dreadful. With repetitive moves and poor collision detection, two things you absolutely do not want in a third-person beat-em-up.
Ever teach you that crime doesn't pay?
Number 8, Aliens, Colonial Marines.
Yes, indeed.
One of the most disastrous game releases of the 7th console generation, Aliens Colonial Marines, drew the ire of both critics and fans of the film franchise. Buggy to an almost ridiculous degree, the game's busted AI reduces the legendary xenomorphs, a typically terrifying and nearly unstoppable foe, into shambling, brainless creatures waiting to get shot. As we eventually learned, this was actually the result of a typo in the game's code that literally broke the enemy AI. Unfortunately, that was far from the only issue. The story was bland and inconsistent with the franchise, while the visuals felt extremely unpolished. Though it initially sold well, terrible reviews and widespread disappointment with the finished product quickly torpedoed the game's reputation.
Is this gonna work?
It'll work.
How do you know?
You lost a girl too, right?
Yeah.
Me too. It has to work.
Number 7, The Mummy Returns.
Great movie. But just like all movies, they had to make games out of them.
Kind of like movies based on games, video games based on movies do not have a great track record. They're often rushed through production so they can be released alongside the movie, which often leads to a product that either feels unpolished or outright unfinished. While the tie-in to the second Mummy film is at least playable, it's also a short and rather dull affair that feels more stale than a centuries-old mummy. take control of hero Rick O'Connell, or, fun little twist, the villainous mummy Imhotep. But apart from that one novelty, and it boasting decent visuals for a 2001 release, The Mummy Returns has little to offer gamers or fans of the movies. Number 6. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
Yeah, the Tony Hawk franchise should just go into retirement.
We cannot count the hours we spent perfecting our virtual skating abilities in the earlier installments of this once-beloved franchise. But when gamers popped Pro Skater 5 into their PlayStations, no amount of nostalgia could save it. Despite coming out on the PS4, the game's graphics look almost a full generation behind, and the game's systems and controls are fundamentally broken. It immediately becomes clear that it's about as slapdash and shoddy a release as you can get from an established franchise. Tough it out in these boring levels long enough and you may find the odd moment of fun, only for one of the game's countless glitches to bring it to a screeching halt. Number 5. Barbie Explorer.
Well, Barbie sucked anyway. So a Barbie game? I know there was one on the NES too. Sucked. But this sucks because of, the 3D perspective and everything.
The world's favorite fashion doll has had countless jobs over the years, and evidently one of them was a globe-trotting explorer in video game form. But Tomb Raider, this ain't. A janky and joyless platformer, the game looks like an unlicensed Crash Bandicoot mod with all the fun ripped out. Players navigate Barbie through dull environments, wrestling with the controls the entire way through. The game charges you with locating priceless artifacts, but the real challenge is managing to find anything about the gameplay in the face of its many technical failings. Barbie fans and gamers alike should avoid this one. Number 4. Little Britain, the video game.
What the heck am I watching? And what's Little Britain?
The uninitiated, Little Britain is a sketch comedy show that debuted in 2000 and helped launch the careers of creator stars Matt Lucas and David Walliams. If you're wondering how and why this warrants a video game adaptation, well, join the club.
Not only can we not figure
That was literally Pac-Man.
Out how this game got made, we simultaneously can't figure out how it could possibly be this bad. Essentially a collection of mini-games presented like an episode of the show, the game takes players through a collection of brief and incredibly simple challenges modeled after sketches and characters from the series. Even by PS2 standards, the graphics are incredibly dated, and the humor almost always fails to land.
Magazines like this have been a lifeline to me. I am the only gay in this village, and that's that.
Introducing Slices and Sticks. 4 slices of pepperoni pizza, together with 8 Italian cheese sticks. A combination as unexpected as the Sexa telephone.
Hey, Mom.
New Slices and Sticks, just $6.
Pizza, pizza. Feeling drained? Soak in your skin. Lather. Rinse. Refresh with Dove Men Plus Care Body Wash that washes away germs and moisturizes skin to refresh you and your skin with every shower.
Number 3. Bubsy 3D.
Even in '96, this sucked.
The The transition from 2D to 3D graphics in games was kind of like the transition from silent films to talkies. Some people survived it, and others didn't. While Mario slipped into his new 3D world with grace and ease, 2D platformer character Bubsy the Bobcat lost many of his 9 lives struggling to make the same jump. Bubsy's 3D debut looks more like a tech demo or a very early work in progress. With a titular Bobcat running and jumping through fields of untextured polygons that could only charitably be called levels. The 3D platforming is a nightmare to control, making the game not only hideous, but nearly impossible to actually play. Number 2. Life of Black Tiger.
Yes. And this was released in 2017, so it has no excuse to be this horrible. I blame One Games.
When we think of games that can make full use of the PlayStation 4's graphical capabilities, ports of phone games are not what comes to mind. Originally released for free on iOS and Android, this game is part of a series that puts players in the paws of wild animals. For mobile games, they're fine. Boring, graphically primitive, but serviceable. But badly ported onto the PlayStation 4 and given a $10 price tag? Who are you kidding, Sony? Maybe. If the game had actually been polished and given high-res textures, a whole lot of QA testing and bug fixes and better localization, it would almost be worth the time and money, but as is, it's downright offensive. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions that I'm sure PlayStation would love for you to forget. Motorcycle Club, PlayStation 4, for hurting our ears.
That sounds like a... What does it sound like? Oh yeah, that sounds like a jumbled mess of just sound.
Leisure Suit Larry, box office bust. PlayStation 3. For
2009. This looks like a one. This looks like a 1v1 fight.
Unrepentant sleaze. Hand yourself in, Kip. Amy, PlayStation 3. For basically being one long escort mission.
Well, that's exactly what it was.
The Guy Game, PlayStation 2. For being sleazier than Leisure Suit Larry.
Yes. Plus, I have no idea what this is.
Want more video game content? Check out our gaming channel Mojo Plays and discover games and ideas you never knew existed. With more lists, breakdowns, and our latest series, Arcade Roulette. Justin and John are in! There's a lot of things being ripped off in this game.
Number 1, Ride to Hell, Retribution. One of the most legendarily bad releases in recent memory. This third-person action game for the PS3.
Wait a minute. Have I just reacted to a video that I reacted to a little while back? Or was this Ride to Hell Retribution on another list that they did? Well, I'm gonna have to check.
Will live forever in infamy as one of gaming's darkest moments. Players take control of biker Jake Conway, who must take revenge after his brother is murdered by a rival gang. But if you're looking to live out your Sons of Anarchy fantasies, look elsewhere.
Oh wait, nope. I watched another list. I reacted to another list that had Ride to Hell Retribution as the number one pick.
The game is a parade of glitches and bugs, and plays terribly even when it's running correctly. The writing is laughable, and the game's portrayal of women is crude and sexist, even by the rock-bottom standard of most video games. No PS3 owner should ever let their console get anywhere near this game. While you're at it, I'll take the keys to the brewery. What the hell are you looking?
In the mood for more awesome gaming content? Be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.
What's up, America? Get ready for an epic new season of dancing with stars that will light it up. Turn! AJ McLean, Vernon Davis. Go!
Okay guys, that was my reaction to top 20 worst PlayStation games of all time. Now, what'd you think of their list? And as for me, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And as always, I'm Hardcore Christopher. Keep it hardcore, everyone.